Welcome to the Look Good, Move Well podcast.
All right, here we go again. Welcome back to the show, everyone. We've got a listener topic request that we're going to cover on this episode.
Yeah.
And before we dive into it, let's address our banter topic today.
Okay.
Which is,
have you made any changes recently to your health and fitness routine?
define recently.
Anything new that you're trying or checking out or have dropped or added?
Yeah, I have, let's see. I'm checking out, I have dropped pretty much all forms of intense cardio for the past 2-3 months.
Mm-hmm.
I'll dabble here and there in a Metcon, but for the most part, no. I have not been doing any of those. I've been following more of our pump, what will be our pump hypertrophy training split that I've been working on with Cliff and Adam. And yeah, you know, Shauna and Megan have jumped into some workouts here and there. Nate has as well. And then nutritionally, I have been... It's been a little bit of time, but I have really tried to stretch my beliefs around clean eating, flexible eating, just fitting things into my macros, and getting back to a much higher carb, lower fat approach to eating, which it's been some time since I've done that. And I'm learning a lot, which I think we'll address today, but those are kind of the main areas. How about you?
Yeah. I have been having my sleep mask on at night again. I think that really actually helps a lot. I'm not a blackout curtain kind of person. I have this really beautiful view from my room of the trees, and I like to just lie in bed and look at the trees, and I don't want to black those out. It makes me feel closed in. Yeah. But the eye mask helps to make it super dark. Yeah. So I like that. And I got my pedometer since the last time we talked about counting steps. So nice. Just getting a sense of how much I walk each day.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do this. I've been doing the sleep mask too. I've been doing the sleep mask, mouth tape pretty consistently for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I was playing around with the little nose breather. Yeah. The nose breathe right strips.
Totally.
Which are great. But then I was having this I don't know. I had some abrasion on the inside of my nose, and it was hurting to have that on too. So I stopped wearing it for a little bit, but I'll get back to it soon. But now the mustache gets caught in the tape, and that doesn't feel good each morning. But I'm still committed to it.
What do you notice about taping your mouth at night?
To be honest, I feel like it's just I'm more more peaceful sleep. I have less tossing and turning and things like that.
Cool.
Yeah. But the sleep mask has been nice.
Mm-hmm.
We just are contending with the middle of the night wake up every night.
Yeah.
That's just
rough.
Sucks.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. The kids are, they're in a phase right now.
Yeah.
But whatever.
Yeah.
It'll pass. I was telling Megan this morning, we were having it's like people always talk about hey, when this phase is over, you're going to miss it. There's going to be something about this that you miss. And I was I told Megan this morning after I finally got the kids in the car on the way to school, I was like, I promise you, after this phase is over, I'm not going to miss it.
Yep.
If I do, I don't care. I'm good. I'm ready. I'm ready to be out of this one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is a great time to drop a note and a mention. If you guys have questions, curiosities, maybe you have a banter topic, or maybe you have a topic that you want for the podcast, or maybe you just heard us talk about these things that we're exploring and experimenting with, and you want more follow-up on that, if you want it, let us know. And the best way to do that is through a DM at Satya Khan, at Marcus Philly. Go over to Instagram and let us know what you want to hear about.
Yeah.
Because today's episode was a direct message from...
We love a DM.
We love a DM. This was from Caleb. Let's see. Caleb, what was your last name? Caleb Bagwell. And I will read the message. I hope it's okay, Caleb. I have 2 speeds in life, fast or zero. It seems like moderation is impossible for me. This, not just in my diet, but that is specifically where I struggle and have a hard time manifesting moderation.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there's this invisible switch for me. If the switch is turned on, I'm like bodybuilder level intensity with my diet. If the switch is off, I'm pizza and beer and chase it down with some ice cream. Worst part, I don't seem to have conscious control over the switch. It just happens. And then one day, it just turns off. And I have probably lost and gained and lost and gained and lost 1,000 pounds in my life because of the back and forth of my diet. So I guess the question is, any recommendations on how to train mentally for consistency for people that don't seem to have the long-term fortitude? Any advice is appreciated. And thank you for sharing your story and wisdom with us. Well, thank you, Caleb.
Yeah.
And as a listener of the podcast and longtime FBB follower, programming follower, happy to dive into this because I'm sure without question you are not alone.
Yep.
Do you feel like you resonate with that? Like you're an all or nothing type of person?
No, I'm not an all or nothing type of person, but what I really resonate with was the aspect of feeling like you're in a particular phase and then you're in another particular phase and it just sort of happens to you and you're like, what happened? I don't know why that switch turned, but it did. And now I'm feeling something different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I definitely resonate being an all or nothing person at various points in my life for sure. Where all in, super consistent, dialed, whatever I thought in my head was being dialed. Whatever I believed at that time would yield optimal results. It was all in. And then when that got too hard or when it, something switched off, it was sort of like, well, I don't know any other way to make progress. So I'm just going to go back to doing stuff that's quite harmful or detrimental or kind of moving me backwards.
Yeah.
And, yeah. And I think over the years, I've gotten better in some respects, but this is where I've really begun to challenge some assumptions in the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
I think I got, I don't know, I guess it was like late 2021, early 2022, where I probably spent my last time being like, I'm all in, I'm 100% on this thing, and I'm going to put every ounce, like I was robotic for a period of time with, it was really just with my, it was almost like a compulsion to work out and train. I was doing like double days. I was just really pushing myself. And I think I got to the end of like a 3 or 4 month phase of that where nothing was different physically. Nothing appeared different. I was performing good in some of these like training sessions and workouts. I did blood chemistries and my blood chemistries were just like way out of whack. Like nothing looked right. I didn't feel my best. And I was like, what the okay, screw that. Like that doesn't make any sense. Like I just went full tilt on something that I believe would make me better. And I didn't get there.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of started me down this like path of being like, what is this all about? What am I chasing? And I certainly have some thoughts to share today with on this. But the thing I keep coming back to is also this conversation we had recently on the podcast about flexible dieting.
Yeah.
And really like the idea of being flexible, what I've been taking away from that is being perfect 100%, like Caleb talked about, being, monk-like consistency, being 100%, I'm bodybuilder switches on. That, number one, is not always the best way to see results for somebody. But let's just for the moment assume that if you go 100% all in, that means that you're checking every single box to optimize your, getting better. I've learned that there's this huge middle ground and gray area where you can see progress, maybe at a slightly slower pace than the all in, but that middle ground where you can see progress, that doesn't feel that hard. It doesn't feel like you have to be a bodybuilder. That's getting ready for a show, a prep bodybuilder. It doesn't feel like you're, a month out from the CrossFit Games where you have to you can't miss a sleep, you can't miss a session, you can't miss, doesn't have to feel like that. You can make progress and you can feel like, man, I'm getting to live my life. I'm getting to do a little bit of everything. And I think what the psychological hurdle to get over here is that we need to really understand that you do not need to be perfect to see results. You do not even need to be anywhere close to perfect to see the results that you want and to make progress and to have the body and the strength and the health that you want to have. And what we should be seeking out is, what's the least amount that I can do and see results? And what I'm sure is that the least amount is not, pizza, beer, and chasing it with ice cream. That's below the least effective dose for progress or what you want. Mm-hmm. But guess what? The least effective dose does have room for a pizza and a beer and ice cream, but it's not hitting the fuck it switch and just going all in on that. And that is what I needed to learn from my early years to today, was that I always wanted to optimize. I always wanted to be doing the most and the best and everything perfect, because I knew that was the best and fastest way. If I was robotic, this is how you see, I applied I took Andrew Huberman's 20 biohacks. I took, so-and-so's 20 training principles. I put it all together and I was the superhuman and I did it perfectly for 10 days and then I fell off. And then it was well, fuck it all. Right. But it's you don't need 20 of those things. You need 2 of them done every day for the whole year. And those 2 things can be different. So it's really having to question how much do I really need to be doing? And I believe that there is a big misconception on what do you actually need to do to make progress? And unfortunately, people like myself at times have perpetuated that misconception. Look at Marcus. He's so dialed in all these things. He's always doing this. He's always doing that. He's always hitting these things. Oh, I got to do that in order to be successful. Well, here I am saying I actually didn't need to do all those things to be successful. And as a matter of fact, if I did a little bit less, I might be even more successful today. Because I ran into stumbling blocks. I ran into, the moment where the switch turned off. I don't have endless discipline forever, every single day. There are plenty of people out there with more discipline than me. I'm disciplined, but I'm not perfect. And I ran into times where trying to push it 100% and be perfect landed me in pain, landed me burnt out, landed me craving something that wasn't the perfect food that was on the plate, and when I succumb to those cravings or I succumb to those, obstacles, if I would often hit the fuck it button and just get off track.
Yeah.
And so if I was off track 20% of the time and 100% robotic 80% of the time, guess what? I'm still living the 80-20 life. So what if I had just chosen an 80-20 approach every day and never fallen off? What is, and what is that 80-20 approach for each person? And I guarantee you it's not being as 100% dialed and robotic as you think you want to be.
Yeah.
It's somewhere far below that. And that is where you can truly find the consistency that's going to give you, the progress, the results, the things that you want, and not feel like you have to do it perfectly to get anywhere.
Yeah. When I really take in this question of how to overcome the one or the other, the back and the forth, and no middle ground in between, I get really curious about a lot of things. One is, what are the conditions that create one state of being or another? What are the internal messages around, I think I need to be this, and if I can't be this, fuck it, I'm going to be this? And what are the assumptions around what it might take to have an 80-20 approach that could be much more sustainable? Is that even something that I can accept for myself? And these can go really deep. And I feel like this is one place where it might take an outside person to help give you feedback and bounce things around, and have someone that you trust to help guide you through interrupting that type of pattern. That's something that a lot of our coaches do with their clients. It could be a therapy thing, depending on how deep these things go. But I think that some sort of external mechanism to check yourself against can be really, really helpful in this situation, because I don't think that it's a question of needing to develop the skill of consistency or the skill of the middle ground. I think it's more, I need to come to some realizations about why I have no middle ground and what helps me create more of one potentially.
Yeah. I think that is powerful to have some external resource or person that can help maybe give you perspective. I have definitely found through education, I have created a bit more flexibility and freedom in my life. Mm-hmm. Really, like, let's say just on the topic of nutrition, paying a bit more attention and really listening, getting away from my feelings about food and what's good and what's bad, and paying attention to the evidence that's out there that truly, shows when calories are equated and protein is equated, all of these 100 different approaches that people are taking are all pretty much the same when it comes to at least body composition and muscle mass. Mm-hmm. Okay. Like, we're not talking about particular amounts of inflammation that somebody's having or their insulin resistance or things like that. But, purely from a body composition and muscle mass standpoint, it doesn't matter if I'm eating, and these are not like my thoughts and just feelings. This is like supported by a lot of different studies where they've taken people and they've broken them into different cohorts, and this group is getting this and this group is getting this. Everyone's getting the same amount of calories. Everyone's getting the same amount of protein relative to their body weight. This group is going to eat, broccoli, chicken, all the clean stuff. This group is going to have, Chex cereal with, pizza and a whey protein shake and, whatever. Like, they're just going to have whatever fits their macros. Like, it is consistently shown that, like, what a lot of people are looking for first and foremost with their diet to change their body composition, their look, there's no difference. And, I like I'm like, I have to spend a lot of time like really letting that in, because like, a calorie is not a calorie. Quality matters. And quality, I can't believe that like, meat, vegetables, and fruit is just as good as whey protein shakes and Chex Mix. Like, what? Like, how is that? And I'm not here to say that like they're the same and that they have the same impact in your body on a cellular level. We'll save that for another discussion. But from what most people come in thinking about, which is like, I want to change my body, I want to change how I look, I want to lose body fat. Like, if you can equate those things, then there's no difference. And so that amount of education to me, like really seeing like, wow, there are different ways to do it. Like, I could say the same thing from a training perspective. We could talk, bodybuilding in the 20 to 30 rep range, or we could talk about, power building in the 5 to 10 rep range. Or we talk about all these different training methods. It's like, well, if you stress the muscle enough for this many repetitions, this many sets per week, the push-pull legs or the full body split or the upper-lower or the bro split or whatever, all of them can work. Like there's no one that's better. It's like what's best for you is what you can do consistently. And so I've heard it enough. And then now I'm like, okay, I got to go put this into practice for myself. Like, what does it mean to do it this way for me? And how does that open up a middle ground where it's like, I don't have to be all or nothing, like it's only this way or it's all the other stuff. It's like, well, actually there's a middle ground where I'm still checking all the boxes that lead to results, but I'm getting to do it in a way that feels actually like I'm not like having to be a robot. I'm not having to like, say no to things entirely, like X out entire groups of food or X out entire ways of training or X out, I don't have to do that. I can actually include a lot of those things. And similar to like, so it's like accumulate some knowledge and some information, some education, then go put it into practice and fight against those like deeply seated beliefs that are going to pop up. Like, okay, I tried to be more flexible. I tried to have ice cream each week. I tried to make it fit my macros. And then there was like the one day where I went over and I went a little crazy and the weight went up 2 pounds on the scale, and that's the ice cream. The ice cream did it. Of course, the one cup of ice cream I had per week that actually fits my macros and is totally fine. But that's the thing. It had to have been that. I need to go eat more broccoli. It's like, fight those urges because they're going to come up.
Yeah.
To tell you that this thing that you're trying is wrong. It's like, it's going to happen. And that's going to be super challenging to overcome that. If Caleb is going to try something in the middle where he's like, I can have a beer every week. I can have ice cream every week. And then I can do all these other things the other 80-90% of the time. And look at me. I'm like, my weight's remaining stable. Like I don't have to go up and down, lose another 1,000 pounds over the next decade of my life. I don't have to do that. And when he has a bad day, we all have a bad day where he ends up really going down the path of like beer, ice cream, pizza, the whole thing. When you wake up the next day, Caleb, and you want to blame it on the pizza and the beer and it's like, no, you don't have to cut that out. Just recognize you had a hard day and there's something else that contributed to that, but that middle ground that you've been playing in is still far better than trying to be a robot 100% of the time and then saying F it for the next month or 2 months where you just completely lose consistency.
This is a really important quality for growth and for also being a thinking athlete. And I think that this is something I've really admired about you, Marcus, is that as long as I've known you, I think that you have been probably more dedicated to the learning than the effectiveness. So you know a lot of things that are effective, but you're always willing to challenge that assumption, to try to learn something new and to push your own assumptions about what's good and bad, and maybe even put those aside and try something totally nuts for a while. And I've seen you try some extreme things, but I feel like that can be a good mental reframe to help yourself experience something that is not the same pattern that you've been stuck in. It's like, okay, well, there's that thing that I know of going back and forth a million times and it sucks. And there's this other thing that I don't know and I may be uncomfortable with and I may be scared to try, but that could open up a whole new world of insight into something that could actually be a new road that I could take.
Yeah. I find so much, I don't know why it's been sort of the thing that's brought me joy is just trying to like investigate and learn new things. But that, and my method for doing that has always been to really, I take in a lot of information from the outside, but when it comes time to like, create an opinion, or not just an opinion, but like experience this thing, I always have to look at how I can apply it to myself and just practice, whatever the method is. And that's where like, all the science and the evidence that's out there that can suggest something is really good for you, because it's worked on a bunch of other people, it's worked in this study and that study. That should be the thing that kind of guides you to say, I want to try something, rather than like somebody who's got a strong bias, an opinion, a feeling, and they want to promote something in a viral kind of like, you got to try this thing because if you don't, this fear tactic, whatever, you can listen to that and then go apply it to yourself and then really feel like, what is this doing for me? Or you can follow kind of this sort of, the trail of evidence that's out there, and then even still makes sense to go and experiment and experience it for yourself. Like, okay, what does it mean to just eat more carbs, but less fat? Same calories. Like, this is a common one. People are really afraid of carbohydrates. Like, I'm fearful of carbs. Every time I eat carbs, I balloon up. It's like, well, let's do this thing. Let's try you eating more carbs where you don't just eat more calories, but you control for your calories. You just eat more carbs and less fat and keep your protein the same. Let's really try that, because that's what the data says is, equates. And then you get to go and experience. How does that make you feel? Are you able to be as consistent with that? Does it give you the energy that you want? Does it give you the sleep that you want? Does it do all those things? And then you can actually overcome this fear of an all or nothing. Like, I can't eat carbs. I can't eat carbs. I can't eat carbs. At some point, you're going to have some carbs. And what happens on that day? You eat all the carbs. Like, I can't eat carbs. Okay, I'm going to have a carb. Oh my gosh, that was so good. Oh, I need to have more. Oh my God. And then you have, 5 donuts and a whole bag of chips. You wake up the next day very puffy and bloated, and you're like, I can't eat carbs ever again. Right. It's like, I can't eat carbs if I were to have that experience either. Like, anybody has that experience, it wasn't the carbs. It was, an overindulgence in carbs, or whatever it might be. So, this is how we can escape this, I believe, this sort of, all or nothing mentality is like, okay, what's the all? Like, how that works.
Right.
You've been down that road. Okay, what's something else? And then how can we go and put that into experimentation mode and really commit to it in this, like, commit with the robotic, discipline that you do to the perfect plan, right, but commit to the 80-20 plan.
Right.
Like, and then tell me what happens after a month.
Yeah. And
you already know how to be disciplined in an approach to eating or to training. So just apply that to a different approach with the intention to be like, I'm here to figure out a better way for myself, because what I've been doing isn't working. And because I've repeated that same back and forth for a decade, like, not only do I know it's not working, it's approaching this insanity level where I'm like, why am I still doing this thing? Because it clearly isn't effective for me. So God, I've been doing it for 10 years, man. I'm really messed, I really got to resort to something new.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Anything else you want to add?
No, I feel like that was thorough.
Fantastic. All right. And we're right at the 30-minute mark. That's
okay.
beautiful.
All
so
right.
Thank you guys for joining us. Like I said at the beginning, if you want to get us some topic requests, you jump into the Instagram direct message. That's a good place to find us. At Satya Khan, at Marcus Philly. We'd love to engage with you over there. Remember, it can just be a banter topic if you'd like, something simple, or a follow-up to anything that we discussed at the beginning in today's banter, this episode, or other topics that you are curious about. See you next time.
We'll see ya.